Hello, welcome along to Language Open Learning. This is our English Grammar course number 2, and today we're going to be talking about the past tense. Now this video lesson runs alongside the PowerPoint presentation if you're on the website. If you're not on the website, down below there'll be a link. If you can click that, this will take you onto the website and it's free to register to see the presentation and the video course. Plus, after this video lesson, you'll be able to take a test, just to check your knowledge and to see how much you know about the past tense. If you're successful in passing it, then we give you a certificate of achievement as a thank you. So let's get started. Let's talk about the past tense. The first part of the past tense we'll talk about is the present simple form. Now, the present simple amends or changes the verb that we are talking about. So let's have a look at regular verbs. With a regular verb in the past tense, it's very easy to remember. We simply add an ed to the bare infinitive. Okay? In verbs ending in e, we simply add a d. So that's all we do for the past simple form. We add, for regular verbs, we add an ed, the letter e and d to the bare infinitive. And if the verb ends in an e, we just add a d. So for example, let's say I enjoyed the film. I enjoyed the film. The verb is enjoy, E-N-J-O-Y. If we make that into the past tense, it becomes enjoyed, E-N-J-O-Y. Y-E-D. I enjoyed the film. I loved the movie. I loved the movie. The verb is love, ends in E, so we add a D. I loved, L-O-V-E-D, I loved the movie. Now this is the same for all persons when we're looking at the verbs. It's the same for I, you, we, I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. It's all follow the same formula for that. So you add an ed to the bare infinitive, or if the verb ends in e, you simply add a d to it. There are a few problems, obviously, with irregular verbs. For example, if the verb ends in y, then we change the y to IE, okay? So if the verb ends in Y, we change the ending to IE, then add the D. So for example, we can say the verb try, T-R-Y. This would then be changed to tried, T-R-I-E-D. So from try, T-R-Y, we change the Y to an I-E and add D. So T-R-Y, try, into tried, T-R-I-E-D. And it's the same thing for cry, C-R-Y. We change the Y to an I-E and add a D. So cry becomes cried, C-R-I-E-D, cry to cried. Now verbs ending with a vowel and a consonant, okay, so verbs that end with one vowel and one consonant, we double the final consonant before adding ed. Okay, so I'll say that again. So verbs that end with a vowel and a consonant, we double the last consonant before adding ed. So for example, if you look at the verb regret, R-E-G, R-E-T, E-T. E is the vowel, D is the consonant, regret. This changes to regretted, regretted. So that becomes R-E-G, R-E-T-T-E-D. So regretted, okay? And it's the same thing for fit, F-I-T. I is the vowel, T is the consonant, fit, F-I-T. This becomes fitted, fitted. And that is spelled F-I-T-T-E-D, fit to fitted. Okay, so we double the final consonant for that. The most common regular verbs it's not really necessary to learn, well, it is really necessary to learn them off by heart. So have a think about what do you think the main verbs that you're going to be using are, and if they're irregular, then they don't follow the same kind of formula, so you really need to learn these off part. But we'll give you a couple. For example, we can say eat, the verb eat, E-A-T. This changes to ate, ate. A-T-E, A-T-E, eat to ate. Then we've got drink, D-R-I-N-K, drink, to drunk, or drank, okay, D-R-A-N-K, drank, drink to drank. Another one is wake, W-A-K-E, wake, and this changes to woke, W-O-K-E, woke. So irregular verbs, they all follow a different set of rules depending on the verbs. And it's really important that you have a think about the verbs and basically learn them off part. But we'll show you main verbs later on in another lesson. So with questions, how do we form questions with the past tense? How do we form questions with the past tense? Well, it's very easy. Questions are formed using did, D-I-D. Questions are formed using did and the bare infinitive. Okay, so did is the past tense of do. So for questions, all we use is did plus the bare infinitive. So I'll give you an example. Did you enjoy the movie? Did you enjoy the movie? Did you enjoy the movie? This is a past tense question. Did you enjoy the movie? Did you drink all the milk? Did you drink all the milk? What did you do yesterday? What did you do yesterday? And why did she leave? Why did she leave? So for questions, all we do is add did to the bare infinitive. For negatives, it's slightly different. What we do is we add did not and the bare infinitive. Okay, so for negatives, we just add did not plus the bare infinitive, and this is contracted again when we speak and when we are in formal writing. Okay, so did not contracts in speech and in formal writing to didn't. Didn't. Okay, so for negatives, it becomes did not contracted to didn't. So for example, we say the coat or the jacket didn't fit me. The jacket didn't fit me. We can also use an example, say, Peter didn't eat very much. Peter didn't eat very much. So for negatives, we add did not, contracted, didn't. Didn't. So what does the past simple mean? What does the past simple mean? Well, the past simple is used to describe an action and states that have a completed period of time. Okay? So the past simple describes an action with a completed period of time. It's totally finished, it's not ongoing, it is completed, it has a completed period of time. We know when the action happened. We know when the action happened, so a definite time expression can be used. Okay, so we use the past simple when the action's completed in a definite time period. So we use a time expression. So for example, I enjoyed the film or enjoyed the movie we watched last night. I enjoyed the movie we watched last night. We can also say we listened to some music yesterday afternoon. We listened to some music yesterday afternoon. We listened, ed, to some music yesterday afternoon. And there's the time expression. Okay? So the past simple we use with a completed action, and we use time expressions. The past simple is also used to describe an habitual action. That is an action that you used to do constantly in the past. I'll give you an example. Every day we got up at 7 a.m. and went to the beach. So when talking about a holiday, for example, we can say every day we got up at 7 a.m. and went to the beach. So there's your habitual action. There's your action. Every day, that's the action, the habitual action. Every day we got up, past tense, and went, past tense, to the beach. So we've looked at the past simple there. Now let's look at the past continuous form. The past continuous form. Now how is this made up? Well, the past continuous is formed with the auxiliary verb be and the ing form of the main verb. Okay? So the past continuous is formed with the auxiliary verb be. So we put be in the past tense and the ing form of the verb. So for example, I was, the past tense, I was sitting by the door. I was sitting by the door. Or we can say, you were laughing. You were laughing. You were laughing. Or he was driving. He was driving. We were crying. We were crying. And they were eating. They were eating. So the past continuous, we use the past form of the auxiliary verb be and the ing form of the verb. This is for the past continuous. So how do we form questions? Well, yes-no questions are formed by inverting the subject and the auxiliary verb be. So yes-no questions are formed by inverting or swapping places with the subject and the auxiliary verb be. So for example, the statement, I was sleeping, to make that a question, we say, was I sleeping? So I was sleeping, was I sleeping? Were you waiting? Was he driving? Were we writing? Were they leaving? So for yes-no questions, we change the subject, which is, for example, I was sleeping. We change the subject, I, and we change the auxiliary verb be, was. It becomes, was I sleeping? WH questions follow the same pattern. So for example, we can say, what were you writing? What were you writing? Why were they waiting? Why were they waiting? Why were you sleeping? Why were you sleeping? So we add the W question and we still invert the subject and the auxiliary verb be. Now negatives for the past continuous are formed with the auxiliary verb be and not. Okay, so negatives are formed with the past of the auxiliary verb be and not. And this is, again, contractions. It's contracted with speaking and informal writing. So let's have a look at this. I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. So was not, contracted, wasn't. He wasn't playing. He was not playing. He wasn't playing, contraction again. They weren't looking. They were not looking. They weren't looking. So remember, with contractions in the past continuous, the verb, the past tense of be plus not, and we contract it. So what does a past continuous mean? Well, it's used to describe a situation that's in progress in the past. So it's used to describe a situation that was in progress in the past. And it's often contrasted with a sudden event in the past simple. Okay, so generally we'll use the past continuous with the past simple. So generally, if you think about it, two actions will have had to have taken place. For example, we can say, I was having my lunch. I was having my lunch, the past continuous. And the sudden event, when Peter called. When Peter called, the past simple. Okay, so it's usually used with two events that happen. I was having my lunch. This is a continuous. I was having my lunch. And then the sudden event, Peter rang. Or we can say, while I was waiting on the bus, while I was waiting on the bus, which is the past continuous. While I was waiting on the bus, I met Paul. I met Paul. So there we go, the past continuous, while I was waiting on the bus. Sudden event, when I met Paul. So we use the past continuous. Generally, we'll use it with the past simple at the end. The past continuous can also be used to describe a situation in progress, or two situations in progress happening at the same time. Okay, so it can be used to describe a couple of situations that are in progress happening at the same time. So for example, while Emma was cooking, Peter was phoning a friend. So while Emma was cooking, Peter was phoning a friend. So there's two situations happening at the same time in the past. While Emma was cooking, Peter was phoning a friend. Another one, the airport was full of people. The airport was full of people. Some were sleeping on the benches. Some were sleeping on the benches. Some were shopping. Others were reading. Everyone was waiting for news of the delayed plane. So we've got three or four things happening at the same time there. So I'll say that again. The airport was full of people. So we're in the airport. It's full of people. Some were sleeping on benches. Some were sleeping on benches. Some were shopping. Some were shopping. Some others were reading. Others were reading. But everyone was waiting. Everyone was waiting on news of the delayed plane. So there, the meaning are, so again, we'll cover that again, to describe a situation in progress in the past, and it's also used to describe several situations that are happening at the same time in the past. So how do we use it with time expressions? Well, it's easy with the past simple. We always will use a time expression. So for example, I arrived here 2 hours ago. I arrived here in March. I arrived here last week. I arrived here at 6 a.m. Okay, so there's a definite time expression with the past simple. I arrived here last week. I arrived here in March. I arrived here yesterday. I arrived here at 6 a.m. With the past continuous, with the time expressions, we can use when or while with the past continuous, and this actually means during the time that. So with the past continuous, we can use when or while, and what it means is during the time that. So for example, while we were waiting for the train, it started to rain. While we were waiting on the train, it started to rain. So what this actually means is, at the time we were waiting on the train, while it started to rain. Another example, I cut my finger when I was peeling the potatoes. I cut my finger when I was peeling the potatoes. I cut my finger at the time that I was peeling the potatoes. But if we mean at the time that, which is different, at the time that, we only use when. with the past simple. Okay, so if we mean at the time that, we only use when with the past simple. So for example, she was really happy when she got her exam results. She was really happy when, at the time, she got her exam results. So we can only use when with the past simple. Okay, so that's the end of the past tense lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're on the website, then you can have a look at the presentation again if you wish. If you're quite happy, then there's a button below you on the website, and if you click that, this will take you on to the questions. And the questions are all about this lesson, so feel free to take the questions. If you pass the test, then we give you a certificate of achievement. So again, I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and look out for the next one, and thanks very much for watching. This is Ajan Ken saying goodbye.